There are moments in life that define you. Moments where you realize that the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally have conditions you'll never meet. For me, that moment happened at a family dinner when I was 31 years old. My father looked me in the eye, in front of everyone, and called me the family failure. Not as a joke. Not as tough love. As a statement of fact. And something inside me that had been bending for years finally snapped. I'm Natalie. The middle child. The one who never quite fit the mold. My older sister Rebecca is a doctor. Pediatric surgeon. Saves lives. Makes our parents beam with pride at every gathering. My younger brother James is a lawyer. Corporate law. Makes ridiculous money. Drives a Porsche. Everything my parents ever dreamed of. And then there's me. I'm a software engineer. I work remotely. I wear hoodies to meetings. I don't have business cards or a corner office. And to my father, that made me a disappointment. Growing up, I was always the creative problem solver. The one who took apart computers to see how they worked. The one who taught myself to code at 13. While Rebecca studied biology and James debated on the mock trial team, I was building apps and learning programming languages. My parents didn't understand it. Didn't see the value. When I told them I wanted to study computer science, my father actually laughed. That's not a real career, Natalie, he said. That's a hobby. Get a business degree. Something practical. I didn't listen. I went to a state school for computer science, paid my own way with scholarships and part-time work, and graduated with honors. But it was never enough. At family gatherings, my father would introduce Rebecca as my daughter the doctor and James as my son the attorney and me as Natalie, she works with computers. Like I was tech support at Best Buy instead of a senior software engineer at a major tech company. When Rebecca bought her house, my parents threw her a party. When James made partner, they took him to Europe. When I got promoted to lead engineer, my father said that's nice and changed the subject. The message was clear. What I did didn't matter. Who I was didn't measure up. I dealt with it. Smiled through the condescension. Showed up to dinners even though I knew I'd spend 2 hours feeling invisible. I told myself it didn't matter. That I didn't need their approval. That I was successful on my own terms. But deep down, it hurt. It always hurt. And I kept hoping that one day they'd see me. Really see me. Understand what I'd built. Respect the path I'd chosen. 3 months ago, something changed in my career. I'd been working on a project for over a year. A proprietary algorithm for data encryption that solved a major security problem in cloud computing. It was brilliant. Elegant. Revolutionary. And when I presented it at a tech conference, people noticed. Big people. I started getting offers. Companies wanting to license my work. Venture capitalists wanting to fund a startup. Tech giants wanting to acquire the patent. The numbers being thrown around were staggering. Life-changing. But I kept it quiet. Told no one outside my close circle. Not because I was hiding it. But because I was waiting for the right deal. The right partner. The right moment. 2 months ago, I signed a contract. A major tech corporation licensed my algorithm for an upfront payment of $2.4 million, plus royalties on every implementation. It was the kind of deal that financial advisors dream about. The kind that set you up for life if you were smart. I was smart. I hired a financial planner. Set up trusts and investments. Paid off my condo. Donated to causes I cared about. And I still had more money than I knew what to do with. But I didn't tell my family. Not yet. Because part of me wanted to savor it. To enjoy my success without their judgment or their sudden interest. Last month, my mother called. Family dinner at their house. Everyone would be there. Rebecca just got an award, she said. James closed a huge case. We want to celebrate. And you should come too, of course. The of course felt like an afterthought. But I said yes. I always said yes. I showed up in jeans and a blazer, my usual style. Rebecca was there in a designer dress. James in a suit that probably cost more than my car payment. My parents were already holding court, talking about Rebecca's award from the medical board. I hugged my siblings, kissed my parents on the cheek, and sat down at the table. Dinner started the way it always did. My father dominated the conversation. Talking about Rebecca's latest surgery. About James's courtroom victory. About how proud he was of his successful children. I ate my food and waited for the moment when someone would remember to ask about my life. It came eventually. My mother turned to me with that polite smile she reserved for distant relatives. And Natalie, how's work? Good, I said. Really good, actually. I'm working on some exciting projects. That's nice, dear, she said, already turning back to Rebecca. What were you saying about the new hospital wing? I felt the familiar sting. The casual dismissal. But I swallowed it down. Then James, trying to be nice, said, "You're still doing the computer stuff, right? Still working from home?" "Yeah," I said. "Still doing the computer stuff." He nodded. "Must be nice. No real pressure. No deadlines. Just, typing." I stared at him. "I have deadlines, James. I manage a team of 12 engineers. We're building systems that handle millions of transactions a day. If we mess up, companies lose money. Data gets breached. That's pressure." My father cut in, his voice dismissive. "It's not the same as what your brother does, Natalie. He's in court. Lives are affected by his decisions. You're, what, making apps?" I took a breath. "I'm not making apps, Dad. I'm an engineer. I build secure systems for cloud infrastructure." He waved his hand. "Whatever it is, it's not a real profession. Not like medicine or law. Those are respectable. Those require real education. Real skill." I felt my jaw clench. I have a degree. I have skills. I've been working in this field for 10 years. He leaned back in his chair. "And what do you have to show for it?" "Rebecca has a house. A thriving practice. James has his partnership. His reputation. What do you have?" The table went quiet. My mother looked uncomfortable. Rebecca stared at her plate. James shifted in his seat. And I sat there, feeling 31 years of being second best crash down on me. "What do I have?" I asked quietly. He shrugged. "You work from home in your pajamas. You don't have a real office. No impressive title. No respect in the community. He paused, searching for the words. "You're the family failure, Natalie. And I think it's time someone said it. The family failure." The words hung in the air like smoke. My mother gasped softly. "Rebecca said, Dad, that's not." But he cut her off. "I'm just being honest. She needs to hear it. Maybe it'll motivate her to do something more with her life." I looked at him. Really looked at him. At this man who'd never understood me. Who'd spent my entire life comparing me to some imaginary standard I could never meet. And I felt something shift inside me. Not breaking. Clarifying. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. "What's that?" my father asked. "This," I said calmly, "is a contract I signed 6 weeks ago." I slid it across the table to him. A major tech corporation licensed an algorithm I developed. They're using it as the foundation for their new security infrastructure. He picked up the folder, frowning. His eyes scanned the first page. Then the second. I watched as his expression changed. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. The contract details the terms, I continued, my voice steady. $2.4 million upfront. Plus 3% royalties on every implementation. Industry analysts estimate the total value over the next 5 years could exceed $8 million. My mother's hand went to her mouth. James leaned over to read the contract, his eyes widening. Rebecca just stared at me. My father looked up, his face pale. This is real? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. It's real, I said. I've already received the upfront payment. It's sitting in investment accounts right now. Generating returns. Building wealth. Securing my future. But apparently, according to you, I'm the family failure. He opened his mouth but no words came out. I stood up, taking the contract back. For the record, I said, my voice calm but firm, I do have an office. It's wherever I choose to work that day. Sometimes it's my home. Sometimes it's a coffee shop. Sometimes it's a beach in Bali. Because I have the freedom to work from anywhere. I don't need a corner office to validate my worth. I paused, looking at each of them. And my title? I'm a principal engineer. I lead a team developing systems used by Fortune 500 companies. Systems that protect financial data for millions of people. Systems that, if they fail, could cost billions. That's the responsibility I carry every single day. I turned to my father. You want to talk about respect in the community? I spoke at 3 international conferences this year. I've been published in tech journals. I'm consulted by companies you've heard of on their security infrastructure. I just don't brag about it at family dinners because I thought, foolishly, that my family would love me for who I am, not what I've accomplished. His face was red now. A mix of shame and shock. Natalie, he started. I held up my hand. I'm not finished, I said. You called me the family failure. In front of everyone. You've spent my entire adult life making me feel like I'm not good enough. Like my choices were wrong. Like I was a disappointment. But here's what I've learned. Success isn't about meeting your narrow definition. It's not about having the career you approve of or the lifestyle you understand. It's about building a life that matters to you. And I have. I've built something extraordinary. Something that's changing my industry. Something that set me up financially for life. And I did it without your support. Without your approval. Without your respect. I picked up my bag. So here's what's going to happen. I'm leaving. I'm going to go home to my condo that I own outright. I'm going to work on projects that excite me. I'm going to live my life on my terms. And I'm not coming back to these dinners until you can treat me with the respect I deserve. My mother was crying now. Natalie, please, she said. We didn't mean. Yes, you did, I said gently. You've always meant it. You just never said it out loud before. I looked at Rebecca and James. They both looked stricken. I love you both, I said. But I can't keep showing up to be the punching bag. The disappointment. The failure. I deserve better than that. Then I walked out. Got in my car. A nice car, by the way. Nothing flashy. But paid in cash. And I drove home. The fallout was immediate. My mother called 12 times that night. Left voicemails crying and apologizing. My father didn't call. Typical. Rebecca texted asking if we could talk. James sent a long message about how he never realized how badly they treated me. I didn't respond to any of them. I needed space. Needed time to process what had happened. To sit with the fact that I'd finally stood up for myself. That I'd finally walked away. A week later, Rebecca showed up at my door. Can we talk? She asked. I let her in. We sat on my couch, the same couch where I'd written half my algorithm, and she cried. I'm so sorry, Natalie, she said. I never stood up for you. I let Dad tear you down year after year and I never said anything. Because it meant he wasn't tearing me down. I was relieved it was you instead of me. And I hate myself for that. I took her hand. You were protecting yourself, I said. I get it. But you can't protect yourself by letting others get hurt. I know, she said. I know that now. She told me things I hadn't known. How my father had pressured her into medicine. How she'd wanted to be a teacher but he'd told her that was beneath her potential. How James had wanted to do environmental law but my father had steered him into corporate because that's where the money was. How neither of them had been brave enough to choose their own path the way I had. And how they both envied me for it, even as they watched me get torn down. You're the only one of us who's actually free, Rebecca said. Who built the life she wanted. And Dad couldn't stand it because it meant you didn't need him. Didn't need his approval. And that threatened him. 2 weeks after the dinner, my father finally called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Natalie, he said. His voice was different. Smaller. I need to apologize. I'm listening, I said. I was wrong, he continued. About everything. About your career. About what success looks like. About calling you a failure. You're not a failure. He paused, and I heard emotion in his voice. You're probably the most successful of all my children. And I was too blind and too stubborn to see it. Why? I asked. Why couldn't you see it? He was quiet for a long moment. Because you didn't need me, he said finally. Rebecca needed me to pay for medical school. James needed my connections to get his first job. But you did everything yourself. Paid your own way. Built your own career. Made your own success. And I didn't know how to relate to that. Didn't know how to be proud of something I didn't understand. So instead of trying to understand, I dismissed it. Dismissed you. And I'm so sorry. It was the most honest he'd ever been with me. It doesn't erase 30 years, Dad, I said quietly. I know, he replied. But I'm asking for a chance to do better. To actually get to know you. To understand what you do. To be the father I should have been all along. I thought about it. Thought about all the years of hurt. But also about the fact that he was trying. Actually trying. Okay, I said. But we start over. No more comparisons. No more dismissing what I do. No more treating me like I'm less than. Deal, he said. And Natalie? Yeah. I'm proud of you. I should have said it years ago. But I'm saying it now. I'm proud of you. We're rebuilding. Slowly. My parents came over last month and I showed them my home office. Explained what I do in terms they could understand. My father asked actual questions. Listened to actual answers. Tried to understand my world. My mother cried again and apologized again and I told her we'd work through it. It's not perfect. Trust takes time to rebuild. But it's better. Real. Honest. And my siblings? We're closer now than we've ever been. Rebecca is considering a career shift. Something that aligns more with what she actually wants. James is taking on pro bono environmental cases on the side, feeding the passion he'd abandoned. We talk about more than just work now. We talk about life. About choices. About the courage it takes to build your own path. Last week, the three of us had dinner together. No parents. Just us. And James raised his glass. To Natalie, he said. The only one of us brave enough to be herself. The only one who didn't let Dad decide who she should be. We should all be more like you. I'm 32 now. Still a software engineer. Still working remotely in my hoodies. Still building systems that matter. But now I also mentor young women in tech. I speak at universities about choosing unconventional paths. I fund scholarships for students studying computer science who don't have family support. Because I remember what it felt like to be dismissed. To be told my dreams weren't real. And I want to make sure the next generation of engineers hears a different message. That their path is valid. That their skills matter. That they're not failures just because they don't fit someone else's mold. If you've ever been called a failure by the people who were supposed to believe in you, this story is for you. If you've ever been dismissed because your success didn't look like what they expected, you already know how I felt. But here's what I learned. The opinion that matters most is your own. Build the life you want. Chase the dreams that excite you. Define success on your own terms. And when someone tries to make you feel small, show them exactly how big you've become. Not for revenge. But for clarity. For truth. For yourself. Comment your city below and tell me, have you ever had to prove your worth to people who should have seen it all along? Subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to let others define their value. Because sometimes, the best response to being called a failure isn't defending yourself. It's succeeding so loudly they can't ignore it anymore.